Right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to all my listeners of Historia Podcast. I am your host, Kim, and tonight we have Miss Viloshni Moodley from South Africa. Good evening, good afternoon to you, Miss Viloshni. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
All right. How are you? I mean, how's the situation in Canada in Africa, in South Africa?
um, I'm doing very well, and I'm very excited to be chatting to you today. South Africa and COVID, I'm assuming that's what you alluding to.
Yes.
Um, it's it's actually hit a peak, and we're hoping that it is going to be getting better.
Oh, that's good to hear. I mean, I hope that it's gonna be getting better. Like I've said this
Yeah,
a couple of episodes before. Like with the presence of vaccines already, no, and I think there's one more challenge to that we're facing right now. People are afraid to take vaccines on COVID. And there's an underlying fear of, taking those stuff. You know, there's kind of what I call this, like it's a fear of taking those vaccines because of the possible side effects, you know, that it may bring to a person. So yeah, that's one more challenge. Yet, since it's vaccines are already there, we're expecting, or we're hoping for the best. We're hoping for the better 2021 for sure.
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
now, so let's go into your origin story. I would call this an origin story. So please tell me about a little bit about yourself, and how did you establish yourself as an intimacy expert?
Okay, so the one question I get all the time is if I am South African. I am Indian South African.
Oh,
So yeah, so I have lived in. I was born and raised in South Africa, and even though I've traveled out of the country, South Africa is still the best place to live, and we have the best weather conditions. So my career in corporate ended probably in at the end of 2019, and I had about just over 25 years in corporate. And one of my passions has been, helping women to gain confidence, understand themselves, also to accept themselves, because women have a lot of insecurities. So this all came about for me 10 years ago when I went through my divorce and I was healing. And from that, I realized that the lack of sex education, and also the lack of the openness and transparency around sex and the discussion of the topic. It's always treated as taboo. However, it is an incredible, amazing, beautiful gift given to us by God. And as we're being raised as children, nobody talks about it or anything, and that impacts our lives as adults. And through my healing from my divorce, that was quite a big discovery for me. And once I started feeling liberated, I obviously shared this with people, with women around me. But obviously, having a corporate lifestyle is very difficult for you to kind of juggle two balls because it's your accountability and your deliverables. And also, my career was quite a I had quite a bit of accountability, if I put it that way. I'm not going to say it was stressful. So there was a lot of work that was required and a lot of focus.
yeah.
So the focus could not be separated. So this was my opportunity really for me to get into this. And what I did was I studied through Lavology University, as I am certified as a master sexpert. I'm not just a self-proclaimed
Yeah.
intimacy coach. And I am currently studying further with Lavology University so that I'm able to better serve my clients.
All right, that's amazing. There's some people. There's some people who call themselves expert, and then what separates you from them is there's a piece of paper that certifies you to become that particular person. It's like, unlike other people, they would say just they're an expert because they're saying this, they're saying that, they've been doing it for quite some time. And it's really interesting because uh when we talk about intimacy and all those stuff, I think here in the Philippines, it's also being frowned upon. They're not being talked. Philippines culture in the Philippines. I can still say that it's quite conservative, although it's getting out of its shell. But yeah, it's going through such times. They're not properly educated when it comes to those kinds of things, and I think more people. I think nowadays it's a good time. It's really a good time to educate yourself about this particular topic. Some people would say it as very sensitive. It's taboo. That yes, you're right. So, but there's a lot of enlightenment to it. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. I
Absolutely.
really like that. Then
Yeah, absolutely. Because it makes such an impact on relationships. And if you think about it, relationships give us the overall, sense of well-being. A healthy relationship will motivate you to succeed, to achieve your goals. It wouldn't give you that feeling that you just want to crawl up in the corner and just, do the basics that you need to do. So healthy relationships in a home can also have the roll-on effect on kids seeing parents happy, kids seeing parents being able to communicate, being able to be loving to each other. It just also it changes their mindsets, it changes the environment that they raised in.
and I would add to that kind of when you said that you were divorced from that particular person, and you found that sense of fulfillment. You were free of from something. You were out from the chains of something, and I would relate that to my mother too. Because we are also a product of a broken family. My mother and my father separated when I was 4 years old, and you know, in it at first it was really devastating, but in the long run, it was a process of healing. It was a process of you know discovering oneself and improving that person to a better version of himself or herself. So yeah, I really like that. Now
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is me or what I've observed by far is that there's a surge of you know, not really the birth rate, but there's the surge of intimacy within between many people, among many people during these times of pandemic. And in my community, the people around me, like almost all of them, become, you know, they're all becoming intimate. So my question for this is that why do people become more intimate in times of turmoil, in times of uncertainty? What do you think is the case for that?
So I think my view is that they seeking comfort. And how else do we get comfort as humans than from one another? And some people turn to probably spiritual intimacy. at in difficult times, and it's perfectly normal to be seeking romantic emotional intimacy.
All right. So when it comes to, you know, not only I've observed this, but also I have experienced those feelings of, during the lockdown. You know, I think so many people, not just me, but other people would also, there's that feeling of loneliness. There's emotional sadness that they want to be they want to be with other people. I think that's what really uh you know I think that's one answer to that question as well, where, you know people would be kind of more intimate in times of COVID. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
amazing.
also what we need to also recognize is that, sex and intimacy are two different things. So being having intimate relationships and building on intimacy, it's a good thing, because intimacy ultimately leads to sex. Um, and being being intimate and building on intimacy, and that can be even with yourself, building with intimacy, building your intimacy with yourself, and that is really a translation of self-care and of accepting yourself and the self-confidence.
Yes, that's right. Because once you're loving yourself, then you know you're kind of ready to accept yourself and accept other people as well, right? So
Yeah.
I think most of the things that come with it, that it all starts with the mind, with your mindset within. If you have
Yeah.
insecurities, uh, you have to recognize those insecurities. You have to share them. In my case, I would share my insecurities and all those uh, problems that I have, so that everything will be a little better. It's not really that. For me, I would call this a releasing moment. I would call this a releasing moment. So, and that is also one way of being more intimate with yourself. It's also part of knowing who you are, part of knowing, recognizing your own weaknesses. Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. And I think it's so key to share that with your partner, your
correct.
insecurities, like you say, because that communication actually, and the partner understanding you also helps you, and the relationship, and manages expectations between the both of you.
Right. That's right. That's right. So it's it's share. You correct. Intimacy, sharing your insecurities, not only yours but also your uh partner as well. Like being vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
Yes. uh if you're single, it's
Yeah.
okay with, you just being yourself with, sharing your vulnerabilities with, for example, your family. you know your family, your friends, your other, your inner circles. So
Yeah.
that's one point that I want to add as well. That's great. So moving on, what were the most notable changes when it comes to dating and relationships for the past 2 years? Like before the pandemic, how would you compare the state of the dating and the relationship intimacy? Uh,
Well,
sorry.
well, Yeah. So, well, basically, during the pandemic and during the lockdowns, because it was so strict, a lot of people, a lot of relationships have taken strain. A lot of people, and I can speak for South Africans, where they were going to get married um, in 2020, and the pandemic was a result of a lot of relationships breaking, sadly.
Oh my. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's not just
yeah,
devastating when it comes to people losing their lives, but also it's really hitting a lot of people emotionally and mentally. So based on my observations as well, I think I think one thing that I could note is I think many people would now resort to online dating, right? Online dating and
yeah,
uh, you know just doing things virtually because they're on lockdown. They cannot go outside.
yeah,
Limited limited space or limited. You you can't travel anywhere. So that's also one observation that I saw here, and I think that's pretty much my behavior as well. Yeah, so I would opt into Okay Cupid, Tinder, whatever. So those were my observations for myself
yeah,
and maybe for other people. That applies to other people as well.
yeah.
So
But the other very recognizable change in the industry has been the increase in sales of sex toys. Because most people are unable to leave the house, and they've started indulging in sex toys if they haven't been previously.
oh, that's interesting. You know,
Yeah,
that's one topic sure for sure that is not being talked about by many people. The toys. It's
yeah,
even for me, personally, it's kind of hard. It's kind of a it's frowned upon. Sometimes it's kind of a joke. I would call this a meme sometimes, because of those, because of those scenarios, people using. But we can
but
something
we
that
also
I
need to also consider the. Oh, sorry.
yeah, sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that we also need to consider that sex toys provide so many benefits. Especially if you and if you're somebody who has medical issues as well, and sex toys help you. So the thing is that there's just I think the benefits actually outweigh the taboo that's placed on it. And the more that people start talking about it, the more that people start um, being informed with the right information, their perceptions change. Because if you think about it, it's just basically what you learn from one another, or it's what you watch on maybe porn,
Yeah.
and that's how perceptions are derived.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. Uh, uh, for sure, this is not something that I, even I'm kind of shy in discussing about things. It's kind of for me, but it's actually helpful for sure. You're right with that, and
Mm,
it's it can satisfy one's longingness with somebody or something. If especially if you have problems with the it can probably help you emotionally as well, right? So for
yeah,
sure, it's really good. It's yeah, you're right. Outweighs it the benefits outweigh more than what it's what's the taboo, what's whatever there, right? So awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. Okay. Right. So discussing about the toys. So over the past, over the past, over the course of your career as an expert, what is the most difficult case you've worked with, uh, related to toys? All right, let's go with the toys, related to toys, and how did you help them?
Uh, these it's always been a pleasure talking about toys because it's just confusion in terms of what is it that they should use. I don't personally sell toys. However, you do get clients asking for recommendations in terms of what toys, especially female clients, should they use. And males as well are starting to want to use toys instead of just having one night stands, which is actually quite encouraging because if you think about sexually transmitted diseases and infections and those risks, it actually helps to curb the risk by taking a decision like that.
Yes, and I would note that it's kind of alarming these days. When you talked about, you know, STIs, or those kinds of diseases, because of the having one night stand. It's actually good that you mentioned about those, because here, I would say in my place, I've seen some articles in my here in my area that it's a little alarming. I would say that it's alarming. So the toys really help. Uh, you know, I think it's healthier. It's even healthier than just buying hooker. You know, you paying for something or somebody, it's not worth it, and the fees is just, you know the consequence is far greater, when you do it rather than just sex toys. So it's good that you mentioned that. Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I think some people also would be, can be really needy and desperate during this time. You know, what I mean by this is, that you're wanting someone or something to become part of your life, yet you don't think that it can actually work for you. So what's the biggest step? What's your biggest advice or biggest step one could take to get out of that scenario?
Uh, Sorry, just repeat the scenario because the Wi-Fi just froze, made the screen froze.
Yes. So I would go back to for example, the pandemic. Some people can be really needy. I would say needy. What I mean by this is, you're really wanting someone or somebody to become part of your life. That sense of wanting somebody,
Mm,
yet you don't think
okay.
you can really have. Now, what's your best, or what's the biggest step for a person to, for one person to get out of it? Like, how does he or she overcome that kind of scenario? What's your biggest advice for that?
Okay. So I mean, both individuals need to want to have the same goal. Both individuals would want to be with each other. If that's not the case, and the one wants to get out of that situation because the pandemic is now, almost easing out and everything is
Yeah.
kind of normalizing, then it's quite important that it is communicated to the other person because um, sometimes being too familiar with each other, and especially during the lockdown and that sort of thing, there was pretty much nothing else to do but be in each other's space. And
Right.
people can grow very attached to each other during that time. And the best way to deal with that is open communication, direct, honest, open communication, putting your cards on the table. Because if there's anything, you don't want to be stuck with someone like that for, I shouldn't even say for the rest of your life, because it's not going to, it's not going to be a pleasant, it's not going to be a pleasant time together.
I see. So, communication. You have to communicate with one another, whether it's yourself. You have to communicate with yourself, or with your partner if you have a partner. I think one solution I could probably suggest if if you're single is probably uh you know um talking with yourself, like really talking your inner self. You know, what should what could have been done, what could you do, or uh what can you do instead of what can you do instead, rather than you asking you asking yourself why is it like this, why are you blaming the circumstance, or why is this happening. So I think you asking yourself what can you do, it's one more step, it's also one step to
Yeah.
getting out of there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because as you said, and rightfully so, everything starts here in the mind. And I mean, as much as we want to think that our genitals are our sex organs, the biggest sex organ is our brain, because that's where it starts. That's where the stimulation actually starts. That's where the arousal starts and the
Yeah.
messages are sent through our body. So being on your own and even wanting someone, it starts here where you have to think about what are the qualities you want in a person, because it's not just about finding someone, it's about that person needs to be the right person. We all have constraints where time is concerned, we're now also leaving the house, going out, and that sort of thing. So we also need to be very conscious about these decisions that we make for ourselves, that the person that we want to meet and who they are, we need to almost put a descriptor in for ourselves, so that we know that you're not just going to accept the first person that comes your way.
So it's I would say this also. It's, as you mentioned, it's I would say it's clarity, right? Clarity of what you really want to what you really want on that person, on the person, what qualities, I would say also flaws, like what works, and insecurities you can accept, you can accept to that person, what kind of you know special trait, you are possibly, even the, I would say, uh fetishes something like that. Yeah. What kind of fetish does that person, that do you want to that person, or what kind of, it's all in your mind, the imagination is there. It's I think that's, and one more thing I could add is putting that in a notebook.
Mm,
um I don't know, but maybe when I was in, probably 2 years ago, when I was still working in a call center, I would write down what I really want. List down all the things that I want for, um you know, not just for a person, but also my goals in life. What do I want to be, right? Not only in relationships, but also in career and all, and just being who you are as a person. I think we really need that clarity of mind. you know. And to achieve that, I think asking the right questions is the key, right? Asking the right questions. It's it really takes time to ask the right question. It's really difficult. I think it's something that is difficult to do. Yet, but once you had the right target, or once you have the right question, it's like opening everything. Like, whoa, boom! It's mind blowing. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it all starts off with understanding yourself, understanding what you want in someone else, understanding what is it that you're going to compromise on. And it's almost having your own checklist, in terms of whether the person meets those values that you require. And journaling, like you say, journaling is not just for gratitude and for goals and that sort of thing. I strongly recommend it, um, have a love journal, and journal what is it that you want, or if you're in a relationship, what are the things that you love about your partner, what are the things that you would want to change about them. But it's also about finding ways to communicate that with them. So it's not about having the journal so that you can just point fingers, and every time there's a fight you bring that up. But it's a way of therapeutically dealing with it with yourself, managing your stress levels at a time that you're going to, there's an argument, and being able to then communicate it in a constructive way.
Yes, indeed, and also the I would say the content you consume also applies there as well. If you're just journaling, if you're just doing it by yourself, then I'm a firm believer of the environment. It's stronger than your willpower. If you're that kind of uh if you have the power, but all around you is like it's like they have a different mindset, or they have the different kind of deed, chances are you become like them too. So
Yeah.
also what you consume, what kind of content are you watching, or what kind of books are you reading, or the people as well. The people really. I would also add that in the you know, probably arsenal or whatever. Okay. And going back to communication, and what is one thing, or what is one thing that causes communication breakdown between couples?
So, what really causes the breakdown in communication is
Yes.
that, there's two things. So the one is that no communication, so where there's just
Yeah.
absolutely no communication, and there's just silence. And the second thing is that if I don't like something about you, I become confrontational instead of dealing with it in a loving manner. If you're in a relationship, there is love. So that's how it should be. That's how you should communicate. You should communicate with love, not communicate, in a confrontational manner. And an example of that could be, for example, if your breath smells and you kiss me, and instead of me pushing you away and telling you that your breath stinks, and being vile about it, I could say that, I really like it when you kiss me after you brushed your teeth, because that is so much
Yeah.
that is so much better in delivering a message than pushing someone that you love away and insulting them.
I see. So it's the way
And
that
it,
you communicate.
and yes, and we all human, we all feel. Maybe we feel different levels, but at some point you do feel the insult.
Yeah. Not just the insult, the sarcasm is also there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, you can say candor with a little bit of sugar, right? I would with a little bit of sugar, with the sugar coating,
So,
just
so
to make it less
when they say
offensive.
relationships take work,
Yeah.
that's the work that it takes.
Yeah, so it's just making it less offensive. Like instead of you directing, oh you're bad or what. You know what? You're good, but we can make it a little better if you do this. It's also constructive criticism in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so communication. We've already talked about communication and also those insecurities and being yourself. Uh, Things that can give you clarity to get what you want in a partner. Also, uh, so I mentioned earlier, some people resort to dating apps like online, like OkCupid, Tinder, whatever. So how do you make your profile stand out? I think this is a personal question. Yeah, how do you make your profile stand out?
I think I think you know the one advice that I do give my clients is that you need to be honest and be open about it and use your own photos. Don't use somebody else's photo. Um, you present yourself like you are. Don't present a false image of yourself.
Awesome. So presenting yourself in the best, in your best possible way without over, you know, not how do I say that? Lying or lying
It's
to the point that
being authentically you.
yes,
It's
that
just being authentically you.
right. It's
That's the best way to do a profile because if you're really genuine about the person that you want to meet, then you want to meet someone who matches your values and what you want as well.
oh okay. So it's being authentic, like being yourself. It's going back to yourself again. Yeah. Self love
Yeah.
and self care. Like it's how you present yourself. How do you become that that real genuine person in that particular platform, right? So for example, when that time comes, you were able to stand out, you were able to find somebody. So this February, I'm sure that mm, people will be going on dates, right? Some would be virtual, some would be physical date with the mask. So since people are virtual, I think most people are virtual now. How do you make the most out of your virtual dates?
Wow, there's so many ways. And it's all about creativity. And it's just something that like really excites me. Because I feel really, there's no need to actually lose out on that feeling and that interaction with this person. And all it takes is just a little bit of planning. So basically, one of the things that you could do is you could arrange a games night, like a game night with the person and play the game virtually. It could be something as simple as truth or dare, or it could be a board game that you want to play, and where there's questions, and obviously the one person is going to have to do the movement of whatever the beads or dice and that sort of thing is. um, so there's ways and means, but if it's relationships, it's best to get to know one another better. And there's a lot, I think, even in with couples that have been together for a long time, where you can learn about one another. And I think playing games like truth or dare, you don't have to go according to rules and things like that. You can actually just almost construct it to suit you and to suit what you want to get out of it.
Oh,
Then
that
there's
really excites.
also doing doing dinner, together virtually, where you could actually have your video camera on and you both preparing dinner, having a glass of wine, watching each other preparing dinner, having a conversation, or even just eating the meal together. Setting the scene like lighting candles. Well, obviously, it would be dependent on each other whether you would want to go to those extremes or not.
Yeah.
Um, because ultimately, it's about setting the scene for yourself. You could also do self pleasure
Yeah.
night, date night, where you could use props like, you know, a tripod to hold your phone, or the camera, so that your hands
Yeah.
are free. You could use sex toys. You could use a chair. Because remember, if it is a male and female partner, males are stimulated visually. So it's always good to plan these things and plan them properly so that you take each other's um, preferences into account when you're doing this. Because it's pointless if you plan a self pleasure night, a mutual self pleasure night, and your partner can't see anything, and then he's not stimulated and you're getting all all the stimulation. Um, so so yeah so those are, some of the incredible ways that you could, um, and just having conversations together, watching a movie together. There's so many things, but watching a movie is a good one, because if you start the movie together and you remain on video call, and it's quite it's acceptable. You can actually stay on a video call for that length of time, because what you're doing then is noticing each other and noticing, facial expressions and that sort of thing, which can make a great impact on each other, if there's something that is picked up virtually. So yeah.
Wow. Like it really excites, my mind I had this idea came up when you mentioned about playing games. I am, not just uh board games or truth or dare, but I would also probably encourage online games, because I actually have some people in my circles who became that close or became that more intimate when they played online games together. So that's one thing I could add as well to
Oh,
the
that's
conversation.
also, yeah.
Yeah, online
That's also
games.
a great
You know,
suggestion.
just having that mutual. If you have that one game you both like and you love to do, then that's one way of ensuring making the most out of that date. Yeah.
Yeah, and building a bond at the same time.
Wow. Woo. Okay, it's really exciting. Wow. So I'd like to go with the pieces of advice. I see that there are some pieces of advice that were given by other intimacy experts and all those gurus. Now, what is one thing, or what is something, or a piece of advice given by some other so-called experts or gurus that turn out to be false, when it comes to intimacy and relationships?
Um, I can't actually think of anything, to be really honest with you. But my personal advice that I can give people is that, um, it's so important to understand your own anatomy, and to also just, love yourself more than anything else. Treat your partner with respect, because the last thing that your partner needs is someone who's close to them, treating them with disrespect. Communication is also so key. Keep that open. the other thing is that your five senses in anything that you're doing with your partner, always remember that the five senses, and I mean, if you look at some of my posts, you'll see that I continuously mention it, because those are things that need to be enhanced through stimulation. And if you're not enhancing those five senses of yours as well, then you're losing 20% by not using one of the senses. Um, so that would, I mean, just basically in a nutshell, that would be my advice. And don't don't be shy of your partner, because you may be shy and holding back, but you don't realize how that could be hurting your partner. Because if your partner is a male, and males are very ego driven, and they want to know how they're making you feel, and if you don't let them know how they're making you feel, then they're going to start having doubts in their mind. And those doubts actually lead them to go and get, the ego stroked somewhere else.
Right. Like
And
leading to
it's not something that just happens, but it happens over time when they're not accepted for who they are. If they're not respected, they're not appreciated, because these are things that men want. They want to be appreciated. They want to be accepted for who they are. They don't want to be changed. And I think many people want to change that.
right. It's very hard to
This is about
change
it's
people for sure. Yeah, so it's very hard to change people for sure. Like the only thing that you can probably change is yourself more than anybody else, right? And from there, if you
absolutely.
can change yourself, then uh, everything comes along, right? So it's yeah, there's just a lot of it, more of self love and self care for sure, indeed.
Yeah.
All right, so one more thing, because going back with your career, I'm sure that you know I can see your success on LinkedIn, and it really really excites me for sure. Like a lot of engagement on your posts, a lot of comments on LinkedIn. It really excites me. It's very engaging, and you're very engaging as well. When I put some comments, you also reply. So awesome. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the how happy are you right now with your career?
Wow, I think 20. it gives me
Yeah.
it gives me a reason. I promise you, I'm like in the best space I've ever been. I was really passionate about what I did previously in my corporate role, but this is just something else, because I know that I'm making a difference. I'm helping people to change their lives. And I know that the roll on effect on families, on children, it's, I mean, it can't be measured, to be really honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. There we go. Okay, that's okay. So one more thing is your social media handles. Where should we follow you on social media? I see you have Instagram, Ultimacy Online. Am I correct? Let me see.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, Ultimacy Online on
So
LinkedIn.
on Instagram, I'm at Ultimacy Online. I'm on Facebook at Ultimacy Online. On Twitter, Miss Viloshni, Msviloshni. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Viloshni Moodley. I don't have an Ultimacy Online page. So I am the brand.
Yeah,
So
personal brand. Yeah. Woo! All right, so that's I think that's it for our discussion. I mean, I really learned a lot from you. We were able to share a lot of thoughts, meaningful ideas, based on both of our experience and our ideas. So it was a fun session indeed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you again, Viloshni. I really appreciate your time here on Historia Podcast. And take care. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Goodbye.